Getting to know the storytellers, the authors, arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with James Rollins.
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic, because I'm talking to the master of science, history, and mystery. I mean, you have definitely got a song going on here that's got a lot of hooks in it.
Yeah, I try to throw everything but the kitchen sink in one of my books. It's got historical mystery, weird science, big action set pieces. My goal is to entertain.
Are you a doodler in the way that it's like, because when I'm writing stuff like that, there have been many times that I've called it word doodling, because when you put a lot of those things together and you create harmony with it, what's going through you?
I mean, definitely when I'm writing, I'm living that story. I'm existing the story, and my first drafts are horribly written. Basically, I'm just sort of experiencing the story, and then the hard part then is they all say writing is rewriting, which is the hard part. Is I can do a rough draft of the fun part of throwing it all on paper, but then I've got to similar to Michelangelo, carving away everything except the statue of David out of that block of granite. I've got to figure out where in this flow of story that I put onto paper, where is the story I really want to tell? How can I hone that down to the essential essence of the book I want to write?
You say my favorite word, and it's paper. Do you put it down with a writing instrument first and then take it to the computer?
No, I am definitely a computer writer. And at this point, if you write, maybe it's because I'm a former veterinarian, my handwriting is impossible to read for me. Years after I left the veterinary hospital, I would still get occasional calls from my receptionist saying, "Dr. Jim, can you run in here? We can't read what you write." And, so I have to go in there and say, "The dog is sick." There you go. There's your car pass.
You actually quit that job to become a writer. I mean, talk about, what a brave jump that was.
Well, it was a slow transition. I can't say I just left, with both feet out of the airplane. I did it gradually. My clients became suspicious. Something was going on with Dr. Jim, mostly because of the poster in the lobby. Get your cat spayed, get a free book. So questions would arise across that exam table. Jim, what are you doing? You have a successful veterinary hospital. What's this writing business you're doing? And I said, well, for 15, 20 years, veterinary medicine was my job. It was my paycheck. It's how I learned a living. Writing was just a hobby. I was just really wasn't making much money off my writing in my early career. But I thought down the line it'd be fun to flip that around, is to have eventually writing be my paycheck and veterinary medicine just be my hobby.
Absolutely.
And I always sort of resent when people say former veterinarian, because I'm still licensed. I still do veterinary work. I work with a group that traps feral cats, wildcats. They bring them into the shelter. I spend one Sunday a month spaying and neutering them. So basically now all I do with my veterinary degree is just remove genitalia. But it's a hobby. When I've achieved my goal.
Well, I love the idea that you continue to grow forward in that way, because the word former is, even a Marine will tell you, I am always a Marine. And speaking of Marines, you are very supportive of our U.S. vets.
Definitely. And thank you for asking about that, because I always like plugging the charity organizations that I work with. I went to a USO tour of authors to Iraq and Kuwait during the end of the last war, winter of 2010, I believe. And when I came back, I really wanted to be more focused with my help of assistance with veterans. So I was approached out of the blue from USA Cares. It's a great organization. They raise emergency funds for vets in need, whether it's for making a mortgage payment, helping with an electrical light bill, help with travel expenses. It's just money in your pocket. It's not a loan. And they're very efficient with it. Every dollar they raise, 98 cents ends in the pocket of a veteran, because they don't do any advertising. They look for spokespeople like me or other people out there. And so it's a great organization. I also work with U.S. for Warriors. It's a grassroots outfit out of San Diego that's now spreading nationwide. They have a great mentorship program for helping veterans tell their stories, which I think is very important, whether your goal is publication, whether your goal is just a testament for your family, whether it's just get what's in your head out on paper in a healthy way.
Yep.
It's a great program.
The book we're talking about today is Kingdom of Bones. Readers like dead civilizations, and the reason why is because there's always a mystery, but more importantly, there's always a surprise.
Again, I'm always looking for those historical mysteries, those pieces of history that end in a question mark. This book explores the colonial period of the Congo, but also stretches back into some mysteries around a mythic African king named Prester John. For the centuries, everybody believed he was real. Rulers, popes, and emissaries to Africa to seek him out. Most of them vanished. Today, most historians think his story was just legend, it was just a myth. But the fact that this story persisted for so many centuries makes me wonder, as a writer especially, is there a kernel of truth behind that story? Is there some reason why that story was so persistent? And if anything, Kingdom of Bones proves that truth oftentimes is stranger than fiction.
The way that you do your research and the way that you bring those words together on that computer screen, which becomes the page. I mean, you're in total control of the speed. Is this the reason why I keep seeing your name next to Clive Cussler? Because I've been with Clive, and I mean, you're being sat right next to a genius in writing.
Clive, I grew up reading Clive Cussler. One of the very first blurbs I ever got from one of my books was from Clive. Clive was great. I miss him dearly. We've done book signings together. I interviewed him at the International Thriller Writers Convention. He's a wonderful gentleman, besides being a great writer. And to anything, I think I'm carrying on the legacy of Clive Cussler. He was great. And that's probably I hope to be as good as Clive Cussler in regards to what the stories he's able to pull off. Don't
you think that the Sigma Force gives you readers the opportunity to escape what is this modern world? I mean, once we're into your pages, I mean, we're off and gone until we decide in that moment that it's time to close the book.
I mean, definitely. My goal is to entertain first and foremost. I want you reading into the pages into the wee hours of the morning. If there's beads of sweat on your forehead, all the better. But hopefully, when you close the book, that you're left with something to think about besides just the popcorn entertainment of the novel. At the end of all my novels, I have a what's true, what's not section where I sort of pull aside the curtain and I sort of show where the history came from, where the science came from. I offer some breadcrumbs for if there's any of those topics that are of interest to a reader, they can pick up those breadcrumbs and follow them. Today, one of the greatest compliments I get from a reader is, hey, Jim, I liked your book. It was really exciting. But really, I was really intrigued by this part of the story, and then I read what you wrote at the end of the book, picked up that book or that article, and followed on my own. Because to me, that means that the book is working on many different levels.
Don't you see that part of the book, though? I mean, first of all, I love that part of the book, but don't you see it, though, as the inside sleeve of the album? Because, I mean, you give us an opportunity to see where you really are. Exactly.
It's also it allows me not to answer as many emails, because a lot of people will. Before I was doing that, my early novel did not have that section. So I'd get emails, is this true? Is that true? Where did that come from? So rather than having to answer the same question over and over again, I'll just put it at the back of the novel. That'll take care of that.
Wow. Well, congratulations on Kingdom of Bones. Please come back to the show anytime in the future. James, the door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate the support.
You bet. And keep loving those pets, okay, sir?
I will indeed.